Good morning, children. We're going to read the next story in the Grace book, The Band. Let's go over the vocabulary. Trombone. The T and the R are two consonants. You have to say both of them. T, r, tr. And this is O consonant E. Bone. Trombone. Musical instrument. Trumpet. T, r, m, p, et. Trumpet. That's a lot of sounds. Two-syllable word. Trumpet. So that's two musical instruments. Moose. We've seen that before. Moose. Flock of geese. That's a group of birds. The word flock is for a group of birds. And these birds are geese. And they make a honking sound. Quite a racket. If you hear someone say quite a racket, this is not quiet. It's quite. That's a lot of a racket, or really a racket, a lot of noise. Band, bandmaster, concert. So the people playing in the band, the people with the music instruments are the people in the band. The lady or man who tells the people what to do would be the bandmaster. And if they're playing music for a crowd, they're having a concert. Look at concert. K-A-N-S-E-R-T. Concert. You've heard jazz song before. We had these words in the grand book. Jazz is a kind of music. This man is playing a trumpet, and he is famous for jazz. His name is Louis Armstrong. He's from New Orleans. If you hear someone saying belting out a song, that means they're singing as loud as they can with all their might. Or they could be playing an instrument as loud as they can with all their might. If you hear someone say, knock it out of the park, it can mean they hit a ball far, but it also means they're doing their very best. If you're knocking it out of the park, you're doing a good job. You're doing your best. Drumming up a storm. When you say if you say eating up a storm, that means you're eating a lot. If you say drumming up a storm, you're playing your drums really hard and loud. And now let's read the questions that we have to answer after the story. What did Grace and Jill sound like at the start? They sound like, or sounded, let's see if we can put the ED. They sounded like. How did Mr. Spencer act when the children started out? He acted. You remember, you get the words out of the question to start your answer. Who is Mr. Vance? Well, Mr. Vance is the bandmaster. That's an easy one. I answered that for you, sorry. And describe the band concert. You're going to have to write the band concert was and write about the band concert. Now let's get our book up. Let's take just a minute to look at the pictures. That must be Mr. Vance, the band master. These are the people in the band. Grace has a trumpet. Jill has a trombone. And here's the concert. They're having the concert on the bandstand. There's the bandmaster, and all the children are in the band. So let's read together. The band. Grace and Jill are in a band. Grace toots on her trumpet. Jill toots on her slide trombone. When the children started out, they did not sound too good. Grace and her trombone sounded like a sick moose. Jill and her trumpet sounded like a flock of geese. The two of them made quite a racket. That means they made a lot of noise. It was so bad that Mr. Spencer would yell, "I can't take it!" Then he would run out of the house and hide in the barn. That tells you how he acted. But since then, the children have gotten a lot better, just as Mr. Vance said they would. Mr. Vance is the band master. He spends a lot of time with the children, helping them get better. So this is a good spot to go back up to the top, pause your video, and try to read it without me, okay? After you've read it without me, let's read this page together. In the spring, there is a band concert in the park. Mr. Vance gets up on the bandstand and waves his hands. The band starts belting out a jazz song. They sound good. Grace hits the notes on her trumpet. Jill's trombone sounds good too. The drummer is drumming up a storm. The band is knocking it out of the park. Remember, that means they're doing a good job. Mr. Vance has a big smile on his face. He is proud of Grace and Jill. Mr. Spencer smiles too. He has gotten tired of spending so much time in the barn. So he's happy that they sound better. When you start playing the trombone and the trumpet, it's hard to get the nice sounds. That's the problem. So let's go answer a question. What did they sound like at the start? I'm going to read two parts to you, and you have to say whether that part answers the question or not. What did Grace and Jill sound like at the start? Let's go back. The band. Grace and Jill are in a band. Grace toots on her trumpet. Jill toots on her slide trombone. Well, does that tell you how they really sounded? They just used the word toot to indicate or to show us that it's making a sound. When the children started out, they did not sound too good. Does that tell you how they sounded? Well, does it say they sounded good or they sounded not too good? Let's read more. Grace and her trombone sounded like a sick moose. Does that tell you exactly how Grace sounded? Jill and her trumpet sounded like a flock of geese. So you have to go back to the questions and write how they sounded. They sounded like, try it on your own, and I promise I'll check it for you if you send it to me. Now, how did Mr. Spencer act when the children started out? He acted, let's go back and look. It was so bad that Mr. Spencer would yell, "I can't take it." Then he would run out of the house and hide in the barn. That tells you exactly what he did. So you could write down what he did. But if he screams, "I can't take it," and he hides in the barn, how is he acting? Is he acting angry? Is he acting frustrated? So on this question, you can use your own words here. How did Mr. Spencer act when the children started out? You can say he yelled, he hid in the barn, or he acted. And tell me what word would describe how he acted. Would you say he acted happily? I don't think so. So try that one and write it down or type it if you can and send it to me and I'll give you feedback. This one was easy and I accidentally answered it for you. Who is Mr. Vance? Mr. Vance is the bandmaster, but practice putting your capital and your period anyway. And describe the band concert. Let's go back. Once you get to the concert, they tell you many things about the concert. So you choose to say it in your own words. The concert is it is also in the, they play how do they sound? and they are. You decide by reading this paragraph again how you want to tell people how the band sounded in where it says describe the band concert. At the band concert, now here's the last portion for this video. You're supposed to practice the sound of S. You can do it with one S, two S's, or the letter C. This is easy. You type or write the words under one S, two S's, or C. And sit is obviously one S. I gave you an example. Grass has two S's. And the word cent, which is one penny, has the C. Okay, type it, because I'll give everybody a copy, or write it on a piece of paper and send it to me, and I will let you know how you did. See you on the next video.